All right, there we go. Hello, everyone.
Hello and welcome.
Perfect. Hello. Can someone let us know on the chat whether you can hear us and see us? Okay, I see people joining the meeting. Can I ask someone? Okay, I see someone is typing already. Perfect. Okay. So you can hear us and you can see us here and see us. Perfect. Okay. So before we start, we will just wait maybe 2-3 minutes just to let people in, because sometimes at the beginning people maybe need to queue or register quickly. So just this couple of seconds before we actually start the webinar. And you probably can see a small pop-up on your screens. The webinar is being recorded. That means that in case you want to go back to something there, that is going to be possible. All right. Meanwhile, I'm going to share my screen. So I'm also going to ask you whether you can see my presentation. All right. Can I ask someone to let us know whether you can see the presentation, please? Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So a few seconds
Also
more.
one comment maybe from my side. We do want to make this a little bit interactive. So if you have any questions in between, please type it or let us know, raise a hand, and we'll see that we can address any question there is right within the topic that we're discussing. So this is a very interactive event.
Exactly. So we really count on your participation. We really count on your question. That is going to make the webinar much more interesting. Okay, I can see some people in the lobby. Perfect. Georgia. Hi, Georgia. Nice to see you are with us today. All right. Oh, you can. Georgia can see the presentations. Okay. Can I ask again if other people can see the presentation? Yes, okay, I see some thumbs up. Okay, the technology is always surprising me. I never know how to do that. Okay, perfect. All right, then let's get slowly started, and hopefully more people is going to join. But as I said, even for those people who are a little bit late, the event is going to be available afterwards. So a few words of introduction. My name is 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗏𝗀 𝗠𝘆𝘁𝗵𝘀. I'm really happy to meet you at this webinar, and this is going to be hopefully the first one of a cycle of webinars talking about needling, talking about microneedling. So we are going to invite some interesting guests who can share their experience with microneedling. So we can all look at the microneedling treatment, microneedling device, technology from different angles, and we can hear different perspectives. And today we have a very special guest, a guest that is always difficult to catch or always busy, as the CEOs always are. So very happy and grateful to have you. So I'd like to introduce to everyone Mr. Joern Kluge, CEO and founder of MT Derm company. And the person who is behind the MT Derm company and responsible for creating our amazing 𝗓𝗏𝗃 device. So if you ever wonder who that person is, here we have him. So hello, Joern, and again, thank you for being here.
Kasia, thank you very much. I'm very happy to do this. Yeah, and I'm excited to do that presentation.
Perfect. I'm very excited as well. And so maybe a couple of questions about your experience and about the company, so we can introduce you better to our audience. So if you can let us know how much time MT Derm is on the market, and how long does the company deal with different type of needles and the needling business?
Well, we are on the market for more than 25 years now with medical products. Initially, we had a large range of medical products going from cryotherapy devices, also high-frequency devices, and some needles in that area at that time, permanent makeup machines. But we saw that our competitive advantage was really on injecting into the skin with needles. So that whole area of needle penetration, shallow injection of substances, shallow delivery of substances, no matter if it's a pharmaceutical product or a cosmetic product, that was our key expertise where we have focused the most. Yeah, going from medical products to tattooing products, where we have a line for tattoo artists. Different products, of course, but the expertise in skin and needles.
Exactly. And so as we are here within the aesthetic sector, medical aesthetic medicine, so how many years is MT Derm in this sector? How many years do we have medical microneedling devices?
It depends on the definition. I mean, we had from the very early years, we have started in projects for a drug delivery. Yeah, that was actually the initial, how do you say, the initial kickoff for these projects to deliver vaccines. Yeah, which have never made it to market. Yeah, where we cooperated with large pharmaceutical companies who were developing vaccines, and we were developing the devices for it. But as you know, vaccine delivery is quite, let's say, extensive, not only research, but also on the regulatory side. But we noticed that we could also do more with the technology that we were doing at that time, and that is scar reduction and that is wrinkle reduction. So we're talking about 20 years of experience in that field.
That's a lot of experience. And so while during those 20 years, I bet you have traveled all around the world, talking to different people, hearing from different people, from companies, from doctors. And I was wondering whether you could hear often certain myths or certain misconceptions that are not always true about microneedling.
Yeah, that's what this presentation is about. So there is many times on conferences or in expos, people would come to me and ask me certain questions, and it was surprisingly always similar questions. And therefore, yeah, you thought about doing this presentation and answering some of those questions that come up quite frequently. And yeah, this is indeed like from a long range of time of going to conferences. As you can see, the picture here is a little bit, that's a couple years ago. Yeah, microneedling helps, you know, but not that much. So you can see that was a couple of years ago.
Perfect. Well, then let's talk about needling and let's debunk some myths. And I hope my presentation is well visible. I will ask one more time if people can see the question on the screen. Can you see the question on the screen? Okay, the question is visible. So I'm going to put the code on the chat, and you can all type. So as Joern said, it's going to be interactive presentation. So on your phones, on your devices, on your computer, you can type www.menti.com, and then there will be a code to put, which is 33336123. And I am placing it on the chat. Okay, let me see if you can Okay, so a question what it is for. So if you enter the Menti website, so www.menti.com, you will be able to ask a question. So we will do a little bit of a interactivity and a little bit of questionnaire. So you can give us your opinion. So the question that we will start is, what are the most important features of a good microneedling device? So if I was to ask you for one thing that you would look for when you would decide to buy a microneedling device, what would that be? So we're trying to understand what's your perception of what a good microneedling device is. You can also, if Mentimeter is a little bit difficult, you can also, okay, I see some incoming responses. Okay, you can also type your question in the chat if you would like, but I really encourage you to go to Menti to put the code and to give us your ideas. All right. We just have one answer now. Let me know if you can see it. So if you'll give us more answers, they are going to show up on the screen. We have one answer that is a precision for the moment. Does someone has a different idea? What are we looking for when we want a good microneedling device? All right. What do you think, Joern? Is it a good one?
Precision is important for sure, because precision will, if the penetration is very perpendicular and very straight and linear in and out, it does penetrate into the blood vessels, but just tiny, and creates the pinpoint bleeding that we need. If it goes too much sideways, it more tears the capillaries, and you have a little bit of too much blood at a certain location and less bleeding in other areas, which can lead to, let's say, drops of blood running down and, the needle catching without achieving too much effect. So that's for sure something we want.
Right. So since I don't see any more responses, I'll give a couple of responses that I often hear also on the congresses, and also responses that I thought they were true. So I thought that the number of needles would be important. I thought the length of needles would be important. And I thought the power of the device would be important. Would those be like standard ideas that you would hear from people as well?
Yeah, I think it's in that group of questions that come up, and we don't want to say too much at this point, right? So,
all right.
Yes.
Okay. Then let's go back to the presentation then. Okay. And we move forward. So we stay back on Mentimeter. And the next question is, the longer the needle is, the deeper the penetration. So is that true? Is that true for people? If you can go again, can you see my screen? Okay, I see some thumbs up, but I also see some, okay, Hamid cannot see my screen. Well, let me try to do it one more time.
This is really one of my favorite questions here. Yeah, the longer the needle is, the deeper the penetration.
Okay, we go back to the presentation. Okay, can you see the presentation now? Okay, so I see some people can see it. I hope it's visible now for everyone. Okay, perfect. So that's great. So we have the same page on Mentimeter if someone would like to give us their ideas, and the same code. So the code again. Okay. So Hamid Amani, I see you can see the presentation, but other people can see. So maybe you can try to leave the meeting and then come back so you can see the presentation, because maybe that's some problem on your side. Okay. I don't see many incoming responses, so let's try to answer that question for each one of us, and we move on with the presentation, and I move to the next slide. Okay, shall I start with the video? Yeah.
Yeah, or do we see a result already?
So we don't really have too many responses. So I asked all people. Okay, we have some. Okay, okay.
Well, we are uploading all the results in the end with the names, right? And so we make a ranking of who has answered the most correct questions.
Okay, we have.
I'm joking. Everything is, data protected, so we will not have any information.
So we actually have some results already. Not too many, but we have some. So let me know if you can see it. So 2 people said that only partially, and 1 person said that it doesn't, it's not at all true. So if someone would like to answer the question and add to that, there's still time. And if not, then we are going to proceed with the presentation. It's interesting that no one said yes, definitely. So I think we have already very educated audience. All right, so I go back to presentation. And we can continue with that. All right.
So the answer is actually, it is a no, but also when you say partially is not so wrong, because of course a needle has to have a minimum length. It can't go longer into the skin than it actually is. So if we have a needle of, let's say, 0.5 millimeter, that cannot go further than 0.5. And at the same time, it seems like needles are always longer than they actually penetrate during microneedling procedures. So the needle depth, the needle never, with all machines, with any machines on the market, penetrates the full length of the needle, because it depends on several other factors how far the needles go in. One, and the main thing, will be the 𝗲𝗂𝗃 effect. And the 𝗲𝗃 effect basically is an effect where you think about the needle pushing away the skin and the skin moving away. Yeah, I think it was the first slide.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
So, and the skin moving away from the needle. So that is called the 𝗲𝗃 effect, because imagine a 𝗲𝗃 who would jump onto a bed of needle, that's not going well. Yeah. Also, if he would lay down on one single needle, that would not go well for him. So he lays down on a bed of needles with many, many, many needles. So the more needles you have, the less penetration you get. And this is also one of the reasons why we believe it's not so good to have many needles, because you don't get that controlled same depth every time, but actually less depth. Here is a little bit of a graphic to explain that. On the left side, you see less needles. They will create only very little 𝗲𝗃 effect. And the more needles you have, the more 𝗲𝗃 effect. That means the needles with all other parameters the same will not reach the same depth. Another factor is speed. How fast do the needles hit onto the skin. The faster they hit onto the skin, the deeper the penetration. And here's a good example: is in ski. How is it called?
I just maybe put the voice down. Okay.
So in the jumping, you have that they take the ramp, and the longer the ramp, the higher speed they gain, the further they fly. So with a very short ramp, they would not make it very far. They would not make it very far with a short ramp. So the needle stroke length equals the length of the ramp. So gain a high speed and you penetrate further. So a long stroke length is important because it will increase the needle speed. Finally, you need here it's explained what does a needle stroke length mean. So you see that this is a distance where the needle has its lowest point versus the highest point. And the distance between that is a needle stroke length. And the longer it has to travel at the same frequency, the higher is the speed and the better is the penetration. Also, it requires sharp needles. The sharper the needles, and therefore you need a very precise needle making. The more precise and sharper needle is, the deeper it will, or more easy it will penetrate. And finally, we need to talk about power. And that's something we saw on that first slide that we didn't talk about yet.
Let's come back then.
It's this one, exactly. So you see our machine on the left side and another machine on the right side. If the power is not enough, and let's wait a little bit, and we look at the right side picture, the needles get stuck. Here it's like a silicone pad. The needles get stuck at some point when you move the whole machine onto that pad. The same can happen on the skin. This is, if you're experienced in working with lower powered machines, it's described as hooking or catching of the needles in the skin. When the power is not enough to push the needles in, but also to retract the needles. Here, you see now it's getting stuck. And that is because the power is not enough to retract the needles out of the skin. And when you then do a sideway movement, you get this catching of the needle. It's painful for the patient. It creates some bleeding like outside because you tear the tissue. And it's not beneficial. You can't move quickly over the skin. It takes more time and is not as effective. So these are the most important things, and versus the needle length.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, so that's changes, I think, a little bit what is the common conception or common misconception on what is the most important thing. But let's move to another question. So is it true or is it false that the scale on the microneedling devices show the actual penetration in the skin? So that's often something that we hear, and let's see whether this is true or not. I paste on the chat again code for Mentimeter if someone would like to give the answer on Menti. So again, www.menti.com. I also you can see it on my slide. You can see it on the presentation. So is it true that the scale that we set up on our microneedling device is reflecting on the actual penetration in the skin? For the moment, I don't see any responses on Mentimeter. Maybe they are coming with a little bit of delay. Whoever has trouble to use Mentimeter, you can also write us here on the chat. So we hear from you and we can see whether that's something that you think is true or whether that's something that you think is not really not necessarily true. Also, I would like to encourage you to, if there's any questions,
you can write them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer those.
Exactly. Okay, so we have some first replies. So let's see them. So one person said no, and one person said that to a certain degree it is true. Okay, so what is actually true? Let's go back then to our presentation. Okay, one more person.
So there's a question connected to that, which is interesting, and it is how deep do the needles actually penetrate into the skin? Maybe we can extend that question. What do you think? How deep do the needles penetrate into skin to receive pinpoint bleeding? Type it in the chat if you have an idea. Let's see. Any ideas on how deep do we need to go into the skin?
You can both put it in the chat, or you can also put it in a Mentimeter if you're using that. Okay, actually, I can see.
Yeah,
I can see some ideas. Yes, so I'm back to.
Right.
I'm back to. We see something on the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I don't
give
know
us a range, Caroline. Yeah, maybe you want to give us a range. What do you think? How deep it actually goes? Above 0.5. Okay.
Okay. Here's also some answer from Mentimeter 0.7.
0.5 to 1.5. Okay. Okay, let's go to the presentation. It will be a surprise, I can tell you, because we were super surprised. That was also the answers you were giving us. This is also what we had estimated, and we thought that this would happen. And then we actually measured it with confocal microscopy. Okay, we go through the slides now to the next ones pretty fast. Let me see if I can move it, Kasia. Does it work? Sure. Does everyone see the next ones? So we see the depths that we are achieving. We see that here. Can everyone see my mouse? I'm afraid maybe not, because
I can see it. So we need someone from the chat to let us know if you can see. I see the stratum corneum slide.
Okay. Oh, the corneum. Well, I'm at the stratum granulosum right now. Everyone sees the stratum granulosum? Okay. So, and here we see how deep we are. We are now at 112 microns, so 0.1 millimeter, and the penetrations are clearly visible. We move further downwards in the skin. So now we are in the papillary dermis. We are somewhere at 0.15, 0.16 millimeters. It's still visible. Still visible. So now it already becomes invisible, and we are only at 0.2 millimeters or 200 micron. So that was a result that surprised us a lot. But this is actually the result that we measured repeatedly. This one was on the forearm. It's a little bit thinner skin, so on the inside. So it is possible that in other areas it will be more, but it was much less than we had originally assumed. But this is also part of the studies and certain registrations that we do, approvals in regulatory affairs.
So it's much
less than estimated. Yeah.
Exactly, which is super interesting. Okay, let me know, Joern, whether you're going to continue to move the slides, or and we go to the next question, or I should do that.
Okay, you ask the next question.
All right. Okay. So I'm just I'm hoping that people can see the right slide. And oops. Okay. So if the slide is off, please let us know in the chat. But the next question is, the more needles in the cartridge, the more effective the treatment. So with more needles, we can have more effective treatments because there are more punctures. So again, whoever wants to share their thoughts on Mentimeter, you can do that. But also, if that's just easier for you, maybe Mentimeter is not so easy, you can just type your question here on the chat. We can see it. We can read it out loud. So is it true that if we have more needles in the cartridge, we have more effective treatment, or maybe it's a myth and maybe it's not true? Okay, we have the first comment. So Ina says it's not true. Anyone wants to share their thoughts? Okay, yeah, there are more people saying it's false. False, false, false. No. Okay, maybe just
Okay.
All right, then let's continue. Then is it true or false?
Yes. Well, it is. The more needles, they would only then could be then more effective if all the parameters of speed, etc., 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 were given as mentioned in the first one, which is not the case usually. I mean, not usually, but we haven't seen it. So we have actually chosen to do 6 needles, but run with a very high frequency to get a lot of penetrations, which gave us much better results. So much more consistent pinpoint bleeding without too many gaps that you would notice. So for us in our trials, we have done 6 needles is the optimum, but rather go up with the frequency compared to adding more needles.
Perfect. Okay, and I think the next question.
Yeah, I do see there's a question: which one is better treatment for acne scar, microneedling or microneedling? I assume with RF is the question. Do I read that correctly?
All right. Yeah, there is a question. I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's great that you could pick up on that.
Yeah. So the effect is different. We are a great promoter of mechanical microneedling, of course. Why? Because we believe in the action of the growth factors that are in the blood. So it is a little bit a similar effect, or it's actually the same effect. Let's say if you do we say the platelets. So what we're looking for is the growth factors in the platelets, and we activate those. This activates collagen regrowth, and this does not happen with a different mechanism with RF microneedling. You actually with RF you get a coagulation, and sometimes you get additional scar tissue, which, for example, for wrinkle filling, let's say the deeper level, this could work well. But really to destroy the collagen, which in a case of scar is parallel collagen versus, the, how do you say, interlinked collagen. We need to destroy it. There needs to be some macrophages removing excess collagen, which is wrong, and replacing it through the growth factor activation of the cells. So we believe that this is a better method. We have no comparison study between the two, but we do have studies about scars that show that the effectiveness is very high of mechanical microneedling for scars.
I'm actually super happy that someone asked that question, because when I joined the company and I started to work, I got this question a lot, and at first I didn't understand. I didn't understand what the difference is. So it was great to hear that those are actually two different treatments. And one thing that I remember made me also think a lot on it is when I talked to a doctor, and this doctor also explained to me something that I knew already, but just reminded me that RF technology is also fat reducing technology. So although it might sound like oh, that's a good combo, right? Like not necessarily we want to get rid of fat on our faces, at least not always. That's typically something that we lose with age, and typically we want to gain a little bit more fat, or we try to replace our fat compartments with some other materials. So that's also something to be mindful of, I think, on top of what Joern has already explained.
Yeah.
So, shall I move to the next question? I hope you can already see the next question. So,
well, I will have to move it, right? I'm now in charge. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
So the more punctures per second, the more effective the treatment.
Okay, we have some messages. Okay, false. Any other ideas? I'm also going to check Mentimeter. Okay, next person says it's false. Did we put questions that are too easy, or do we have a very smart
audience?
We
sneak the question in, which is partially true, right? So yeah, punctures per second are good. You know, it's a high frequency, important it is. So here, let's see. So how do we calculate the numbers of punctures per second? The frequency times number of needles. So then, but why are we not better? Or why are we better than our competitors? Because if they have many more needles, it should be better, right? Because we have a higher frequency, but our number of needles is smaller. And the explanation to that is the loss. Okay, so a puncture, to have a lot of punctures per second is great, but they all, of course, need to penetrate into the right depths, and they always need to penetrate the right depths, and they need to bring consistent results, and not sometimes work, sometimes on, off. So that is important to calculate the loss factor. And in this case, the number of, let's say, effective punctures per second, that will be an advantage.
Right, perfect. Okay. All right. I hope people see the screen, because we were doing it back and forth, but I moved it to the next question, so I hope people
Katja, I think you can do it. You can overtake it.
I did that. I did that. It's just, yeah, I always wonder whether what I see is what people see. But anyhow, I'm going to read our next question, which is again, true or false. So all microneedling devices are the same. So they are all doing the same. Is that true? So it's pretty much, it doesn't really matter which one are we going for. They will all bring us the same effect. Okay, the first answer is false. Here or on Mentimeter, you can let us know. You can also let us know why, if you want to type that on the chat. That's great as well. Everyone says no.
Yeah, but actually you can just buy a device on Amazon. It will do the same.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So of course there's a big, yeah. Should we go?
No, that's okay.
There is difference, absolutely. Some of the things I have explained, I mean, one is the scientific background, of course, you know, medical approval. There's only very few devices on the market that are approved medically in Europe and in the US with FDA approval for wrinkles and for scars. But on the technical side, let's talk a little bit more about the technical side. And so we always believe that the needles, they move in and out, let's say, in a very linear way, and it all looks very smooth. But what actually happens in most cases is if the needle catches a little bit to the skin and it doesn't enter the skin linearly, it pulls the skin, it kind of hooks in the skin. I had talked about it a little bit earlier, but this is how it would look. So you get that tearing effect. And this is sometimes it happens if the motor is not strong enough, but it can also happen that if the needle plate kind of is not fully perpendicular to the skin. This can sometimes happen. And as an example, if you compare it to a shaving system, whatever system there is, it is not a stiff system, but it is tiltable because they want to make sure to catch all the hair. They want to make sure to be always perpendicular to the skin with the surface of the shaver. And that's exactly what we're doing when we have a patented system. Our needle head is tiltable. That means it always adjusts to the unevenness of the skin surface. Or also, if you tilt your pen a little bit, it kind of compensates for that. So it makes sure that the needles will always penetrate into the skin at a 90-degree angle, which in the end will result in less catching of the needle into the skin, and also it results in a better treatment of let's say a more consistent delivery of needles into the right skin layer and into the right depths.
That's amazing, and that's something very unique that we have in Exceed. And I think also if we think about all the complicated area of the face, it's really proves to be very, very useful, and it helps to gain that depth that we are looking for. So I think we debunked all the myths that we had. But if there are any questions from the audience again, that's a good time to type it in a chat, or maybe you disagreed with something. Maybe you think that, oh, that is not true and I have a different opinion. We would love to hear from you as well. So let us know if there is any question or any statement that you would like to make, and we can answer. Since we still have Joern here, he can share with us his 20 years of experience from the needling market, which is really, really amazing. And meanwhile, it was amazing to have you. I thank you so much for participating in that webinar. And I want to say, yes, stay tuned for more, because as I said in the beginning, we are thinking of bringing more webinars, bringing more experts, medical expert as well, and cosmetics expert as well, because you're the almost the first people that we share it. But you are going to see very soon some very interesting new proposition from MT Derm. So we are very, very excited to launch a line of cosmetic products that are designed exactly to help the skin heal after microneedling, to help the skin build that collagen, and to help the skin protect from free radicals that are attacking our skin, especially if the skin is more vulnerable, and that happens after not only microneedling but every type of procedure. So we are coming up with a beautiful line of the products that are going to support our device. And that is going to deliver even better results for the patients. At the moment, I don't see any questions. So again, from my side, thank you so much. Thank you, Joern, and thank you. Oh, perfect. There is a question. There is a question from from Ina, that we need a special cartridge for stretch marks. Do you want to answer that, Joern?
Yeah, we are in this moment. We are doing some, let's say, case studies on stretch marks, and yes, Ina, well, I agree. It probably needs a little bit of a deeper penetration to have that treatment even better, or also a stronger machine. So that to actually increase that effectiveness. So we do have case studies that already show it works. but to really make a huge difference, and I think we can, maybe future products will bring that. But it's a long process. We're talking about medical approval, both in Europe and in the US with the FDA. So it's unfortunately not a quick solution to change a product.
But exactly, yes. Even with our existing device, we can have amazing results that that also at some point we are going to see. So thanks, Ina, for bringing that up, and it's also a very interesting thing to talk about. I can see another question: do we need to back the patient with collagen supplement as well? It's a little bit more of a medical question, but again, I think we can answer that.
Well, in my opinion, the main effect is a microneedling effect in the sense of the growth factors. To use supplements, it probably, I mean, it cannot hurt. Yeah, it may provide an additional advantage. I mean, we have in the past done also case studies. We have used, for example, hyaluronic acid with peptides, which had great effect. And I think there's a lot of good products that can contribute to especially good healing afterwards. Yeah. So I think it's very important that you don't have that crust building, and to use topicals that will keep the area very smooth and keep it moisturized. The effect of penetration of substances into skin, you mainly have during the microneedling procedure. So we have seen already that after 10 minutes, the holes of the skin will close. So that means after 10 minutes after treatment, the effect of bringing nutrition into the skin is already reduced to what it was before as a treatment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, I also posted our social media profiles. I posted on the chat our Instagram and our LinkedIn. So if you guys are not yet there, I really encourage you to follow us on those social media. Whatever is coming up for us, whatever we are launching, showing, or proposing, you will always find the information on our social media first. So if you follow us there, you will not miss any future webinar, any future conference, any future place that we are showing or presenting something interesting. If we can mention again, if Joern, if you agree, I will answer that question from Ina. So Ina says, please, if you can mention again regarding the depth in order to get pinpoints. I don't know if that was for stretch mark. Or just in general, but just to let you know, I would love to have a full webinar on that question, because I get it a lot, and there is a person who explained it to me in such a beautiful way that I really want other people to have that experience too. And so that's a new webinar. That's a new webinar because and it's a little bit maybe unless Joern, you wanna give some hints from yourself, but I definitely open a new one for that one.
Yeah, maybe we do that as the next one. So here, you know, I hope everyone is seeing it. 200 microns, so 0.2 millimeter, we achieved. We achieved how do you say, pinpoint bleeding in this area on the forearm. That is already sufficient to get pinpoint bleeding. Stretch mark for sure will be deeper. Stretch mark is a different topic. So we need to be much more aggressive on stretch marks and go much more into the deeper layer of the dermis, if not beyond.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so Ina mentioned that she would like to see more scientific webinars, which will definitely happen. That's what we are planning. So we had one already with Professor Matthias Taust. Some of you know him very well. So he was happy to share with us science behind microneedling. But I also want to use the time to share a news that we are. First of all, we are opening We are going to open and bring more videos, also medical videos. So either that will be on the YouTube channel or that will show up on our website. We still haven't decided, but also webinars like that, some of our live events recordings, we are going to post and make it available for you, so we can create a bit of a medical library that you can use. And also, big news that is coming is our medical hub that we are also going to advertise very, very soon. You will also see it on social media. And in that hub, we have beautiful course on theory and practice of microneedling. And that course covers so many topics. It covers exactly what is happening in the skin when we are working with it. On it with microneedling. It shows you how to plan your treatment so it's the best for you, how to have an interview with your patient, and how to also choose a proper depth of your treatment. So that is soon available. Thank you so much again. So if that's all the questions that you have, then we will say goodbye, I guess.
Also, I would like to thank everyone for participating, and please feel free to also contact us after the webinar if any question has remained unanswered or if any further questions come up. We are always happy to talk to you, take your suggestions, and answer your questions.
Exactly.
Thank
and you can
very
reach us. And you can reach us very easily at info@amiamed.com, or you can also enter our website, www.amiamed.com, and then you will find several contact forms that you can that you can write to us. Okay, that's time to go. Thank you so much again. It was lovely to have it, and see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.